So, Coach, the floor is yours, sir.
Thanks, Justin. Like he was saying, I really appreciate you guys having me on, and I think this is great. This is great for coaching, and we'll just jump right into it. Today, I'm going to talk about the keeping a physical line culture in the spread offense. I know a lot of us today are moving towards the more spread offense and the RPOs and things of that sort. And I think what kind of, and I went through this transition, is moving from a run-heavy offense into kind of, more of a balanced attack and maintaining those types of physicality that all of us as line coaches love. So I'm going to give you guys some background as to who I am, and then I'm going to go into a little bit of how I run my culture with my line. And then I'll dabble a little bit into how we translate that culture into more of a schematic thing. So I'll speak to the power, obviously, which is every line guy's favorite play. And we'll go through the rules just so some of you guys see, like, I know offensive line is a big jargon position where we'll all be saying the same thing and talking circles around each other. So I always found it advantageous to hear people speak in what they call certain things and how they speak to technique a little bit. So we'll talk about that, and then I'll get into how I had to transition more into pass pro and different protections when, we were a 95% run team. So we'll jump right into it. Just want to give you guys some background. My playing career, I'm obviously, I have a big culture where I coach because I played there. I'm a graduate of Longwood High School in 2006. I played varsity football 04, 05. I played for Adam DeWitt. And I'm going to mention some of these coaches' names because we're going to talk about kind of your impact as a coach and what you can do culturally for your kids. Adam DeWitt was the varsity coach there. He won a Long Island championship his very first year with us in 04. He's a no-frills guy. He did a great job of connecting with his kids and I think conveying messages. And I also played my offensive line coach at the time was Mad Dog Joe Peterson, which he's an old school guy. He very technique driven, very big on stance. And then I took, as a mediocre football player, I took my career upstate to Hobart College. Kind of wrote a good work ethic up there. Played for a nationally ranked team. Actually had the privilege as a New York guy to go out and play at Mount Union College in 2008, which was an experience in itself. That program is, for those of you who follow Division III football, is the pinnacle, them in Whitewater. So that was definitely an experience. I played for Mike Craig there. Mike Craig, another, was able to connect with you, but was able to toe the line and set boundaries. And I really appreciated that. And I took that into kind of my coaching career. My offensive line coach there was Kevin Dewall, who's actually the head coach now at Hobart College, was the head coach at Endicott College as well. Very, very technique-oriented, very, very attention to detail. I think that I bring that with me where I've gone. And when I finished my career, I was very lucky to step into an assistant O-line role, D-line role at my alma mater, Longwood High School. I coached for John Murphy, always be indebted to John. I was in sales at the time, selling stuff out of college, and John brought me in, and John is a Longwood guy, so I always he's an 86 graduate. I'd always found that to be really cool that he came back and coached where he was. And again, my offensive line coach was still there, so I was able to coach under him. The following year, I took over as the line coach. I coached under Aiden Smith, Long Island championship coach, now at Shore and Wading River. Coached 2 years under him. Very good motivator. Got the kids to want to play for him. And I currently coach under Jeff Sipp. I've been coaching for him now since 2014. And those of you who know Long Island football know his father, Joe Sipp. So a lot of pedigree there with Jeff, and Jeff's another one. I'm going to speak to it again. We talk about the brick wall, making your kids want to run through that wall for you. And then I mentioned at the bottom here, my teaching career. I'm a special education teacher at a local elementary school in Longwood. And I mention this because my classroom is focused on behavior management, and a huge component of teaching students with disabilities, especially those who may be on the autism spectrum or maybe have emotional disabilities, is that connection. And I'm able to do things with certain students that other teachers aren't because it takes the time to connect with them. And I think that's huge in coaching, especially when we talk about where, we're obviously so X's and O's driven, and we're very preparation and game planning, but we can't forget about those opportunities, especially now, the January through August, where we can connect with these kids and really build those relationships. Like, Justin was talking about before, if you can't get them to buy in, you're not going to get them to do much. So I mention that because I think there's a direct parallel between the two. Now, going through the evolution at Longwood here, I've gone through a big spectrum of offenses, and it's taken a turn to the point where I had to make a paradigm shift the past couple of years with the types of offense we run and the things that we needed to do to be successful. In 2011, I entered an offense that was double tight end, full house, and we pounded the rock. Fortunate enough that year, had a couple guys who one went to play at University of Maine, one played at Syracuse University, very talented group. But we pounded the ball as much as we could. We threw it at a bare minimum. 2012 and 13, we moved under Aiden Smith to more of an I formation pro style. We would have some three-step in, would throw some quick game, but again, we were trying to run that ball. We've done a great job of developing fullbacks over the years, so all of those slant plays and power and anything with a kick-out block we were into. And then in 2014, when Jeff took over, we were a wishbone offense, which is a lost art, I feel like, in today's game. We were big in the backfield, 250-pound fullback at times, big offensive line. We were in a 4-point stance. We were coming off the ball. We were run heavy. We didn't care who you're putting in the box. We were brawling every play. So I loved it. As an offensive line guy, I want to run the ball every play. I don't care who's in the box and what safeties are doing and things. I want to pound the ball. So, but we noticed over time we were starting to, obviously we play against some really good coaching staffs. We were starting to struggle a little bit because if we don't have absolute brawlers at every position, what are we going to do? So we decided we want to be a little more balanced. We had Steve Alisi, I know he spoke a week or two ago. He had come in and he had brought in more of a spread concept. We're in the pistol, we're in the gun almost every play. Very rarely do we go under. So for me to move from a run-heavy offense into this pistol spread and having to understand, like, wow, we might have to pass protect. We're going to have to be able to do different things. And any of you coach offensive line know those are two different mentalities. A goal line situation compared to a 3rd and 18, you want your offensive lineman to be doing completely different things. And to switch that up in your brain is, on the fly in a game, especially when you're not used to it in culture, was definitely a paradigm shift for me. Just to give you guys some background where we have come and how we've been successful the past few years. In 2015, I was privileged enough to have a very talented team. I think every kid across the board was an all-county kid. We had about 4 people on that line go play collegiately. We were in a 4-point stance. So the whole season, you think about, all the things and the studies they have now on technique and being able to pass protect. I had my guys in a 4-point stance. Now, it worked for us then because we were able to get off the ball. And, we always end up having these tough kids at Longwood where, 70% of our kids, they're very resilient. 70% of the kids are on free or reduced lunch. So we have a population of kids who are used to kind of overcoming adversity. So when you get into a game and you want to, be physical and you want to be tough, it's a little easier for us to do. I kid you not, that year we threw the ball 27 times total, played 12 games. And most of the time it was a play action where we shot-putted the ball about 15 yards downfield to a wide open tight end. Our pass protection, very minimal. We're big on big, cup protection for 3-step, and we would do a lot of play action, a lot of slant pass and things of that sort, some boot, but nothing extensive, nothing drop back at all. We were fortunate enough to never get in those situations because we ran the ball well. I think our favorite 3rd down play was blast. So, again, we were very good at running the football. We actually set 2 records in the Long Island Championship, which I think is hilarious. We ran for 555 yards, and we also were the only team to throw for negative yardage and win the championship. We threw 1 screen pass and lost 2 yards on the play. So I'm going to cut to some clips here just to show you guys the difference in our offenses. So here's the 2015 line. You look across the board, we're in a twins formation, double tight end, 1 tight end here, but tight ends are the only ones who are in the 3-point stance. For the most part, everybody's in the 4. So I'll just try to keep rewinding here. Obviously, gap scheme. You see how many people are in the box here. We don't really care. Running trap. But you can see their bodies moving. We're getting off the ball. My left guard here, he didn't start a game until the playoffs. I had my starting guy separate his shoulder. So, running his feet here, we're preaching the physicality. We're living it, running the offense we are. And again, all gap scheme, didn't matter who was in the box. This is our offense. We're running it. Come get it, So Obviously, it's not successful all the time. That's why we're transitioning out. But again, here you'll see some movement. Right tackle's a guy played at Southern Connecticut University. Right guard was at LIU Post. Left tackle's currently at St. Lawrence University. Left tight end, who extremely physical, played linebacker at Utica College. So I had a lot of pieces to work with. And obviously, I'm not sure if I'll have a group like this again. But, we're running our feet. We're getting double teams, and we're brawling in the box. Suffolk County Championship. Again, good look here at everybody down. We're in the wishbone. I mean, you count the box up here. We're in, almost like there's 9 guys in the box, and we're still running the ball. We ended up winning this game 44-14, so we're still able to put points on the board. But, I mean, you take a look at the left tight end here, which tight ends in this offense are basically tackles. I mean, that's as physical as you can get there. And we do preach, we'll get into it more. We want to put kids down. That's the fun part of the sport. Obviously, we don't want to be anything outside the confines of the rules of the game. We want to be sportsmanlike, but, it is part of the nature of the game to be a little mean. It's, you're the lineman. You don't get any of the glory. Let's put some people down. So running our feet, we got people downfield, and we're going to run. Good look at the bone again here, pulling around. Guys being physical, getting into people, bodies flying on the ground. Again, sometimes not always blocking it right, but very, very physical. Another run play here. Take a look like that left side of the line. We're just caving down. I mean, I drive a truck through there. So not always getting the right guys, but we're physical enough where we're putting ourselves in a good position. Left tight end coming down, caving, cutting off on the backside hard, and just pounding the ball. Same thing here. Another good look at the stance, 4-point. We're not really concerned, not overly concerned about pass pro here and getting into a kick slide. And our goal, obviously, was to put the running back one-on-one with the safety, because we had some really tough running backs, and we figured to be very successful like that. But bodies on the ground, people root hogging, moving. I mean, that's stuff we set up in February through, so we can see. Long Island Championship here. Just to give you guys an idea of how passing used to go. Obviously, we're in the bone here. I mean, we just have too many. You can't protect it. We're not in the right, probably, pass pro. So for me, I'm being successful running the ball, struggling early on in my career a little bit with pass protection and implementing things. So things are a little different. But this is us basically throwing the ball. And again, we won this game 47-29. So didn't really need to throw the ball much. Again, another play, you got people unblocked. We're basically trying to block our passes big on big. It's leaving people free. Not doing too good getting the quarterback killed here. But again, ran for 500 yards, so don't always need to in that situation when you have the group of kids to do it. And here's our record-setting -2-yard play, just a screen. But again, we are not a pass team at all. So now you talk about this, we're going to transition into a newer type of offense. We're double tight end, we're running wishbone, we're pounding the ball. Now we come in, Coach Alisi comes in 2018 as the varsity offensive coordinator, and we want to run all this pass stuff. Now, as an offensive line coach, and I don't care what anybody says, there's a lot of ego involved in coaching, and I think that sometimes you kind of work yourself through the situation where you want to do things that you're comfortable with, but it's shifting that paradigm and getting yourself out of that and still understanding at the same time, we could still run this spread concept. We could still be a mean football team. So, we're going from a 4-point stance. Now I'm in a 3. At times a 2. If we're going on a quick count, we're not getting down. So now there's different things you have to teach where you're pushing off the midfoot. You have to make sure pre-snap that you have in your brain where your weight's distributed mentally. Understanding those things. Now we're moving away from those big on big and cut protections. We're running man, half slide, full slide pass pros where we're scouting the defenses and we're figuring out what's best for the quarterback. We're changing things on the fly. And then as everyone's starting to get into the RPOs, running that for a majority of play action now. So we can kind of incorporate 2 of our best things, the run and the pass. And again, we're 95% run. Now we're moving to more of a 60-40 run pass ratio. It's a big change. It's a stark change. So just a couple clips of what we moved to in 2019. Obviously still running a lot of, base formations and things, but, we're still playing mean. We're still drive blocking people. center here driving the blitz and backer out, putting them down. We're pulling around, getting into people. Obviously, running back's very good. But now we're doing it, keeping those same types of physicality and the same culture, but we're just doing it out of a different formation. Missing some blocks here. Obviously, should be covering the backside. But you look at the center again, and he's going to be a very good football player for us. He's being physical. He's running his feet. I'd like to see him use his feet a little better there instead of driving him into the play. But, double team at the point of attack. My right tackle, my right guard moving here. Driving people out of the way, still maintaining those run concepts and the same type of physicality up front, but we're moving into a more balanced attack, which as an offensive line coach at first was a little hesitant to, but it just makes my life a little easier now to have 9 people in the box. Pass pro, and we'll get into this a little bit more later, but, it's very hard, and I think I struggled early on with, you tell kids to go get somebody, get after them, roll your hips, I want to put them down. And then you're getting into this pass pro where, yes, we don't want to be passive, but I need you to change your mindset from play to play where I'm going after somebody. Now I want to keep space. So now I don't care if he bobs his head 9 times and does whatever. I'm going to maintain pass pro relationship and posture. And even if I don't touch him, the quarterback gets the ball off. I did my job. So going through those types of things, it's a hard switch, especially for some guys who might be switching from, the wing T to more modern offenses. Love the wing T, but I see a lot of people switching out of it trying to do some of these things. It's always a damn running back's not blocking anybody, but offensive line here, we're still being physical. I got my right guard putting somebody down. We're still maintaining those things, and we're still trying to be physical and impose our will every play. Good job by the quarterback getting out of the pocket here, completing the pass. Same thing here. We're in a trips formation, right? We got to be able, as much as we're going to sit in twins or our base formation and run those types of power plays, we have to be able to do these things. So pass pro here, you can see my left guard, obviously being physical, putting his man down. Just because we're looking for time and space here does not mean that when we get our paws on you, we can't be physical. So doing a great job there. A couple more here. Running the ball, being physical. My right guard was somebody who wasn't even sniffing the starting lineup. And, through the things I think we do in the offseason, empowered him to, intrinsically motivate himself. And he's driving people across and putting somebody down here. It's amazing what you can do with some of this offseason stuff and building that type of culture. I think we got one more here. It's a pass play, just to give you guys some reference. But again, in a spread set right now. And thankfully film guy's not doing a great job. We score a touchdown here, but I got my center right guard being extremely physical right now. So again, doing things like still throwing the ball, still being in that spread, but maintaining that type of culture. So just showing you guys the differences. And obviously it's a hard change. And if I was to tell you I wasn't resistant at first, I'd be lying. And I think this, the reason I want to speak to these things is maybe if someone going through the same type of transitions, letting you know you can still be that physical offensive line while still switching your formations and doing different things to kind of open up that box for you. So just some of the culture things that we do. And I touched on this earlier. I think that culture begins with connection. You have to connect with your kids. I always use this, especially in teaching too. People are like, they should just listen. They should just do what they're told. I'm the coach, they're the player, or I'm the teacher, they're the student. Well, the best way I could describe this is if you're walking through the Walmart parking lot and some stranger comes up to you and asks you for $5, you're probably going to tell them to leave you alone. But if someone comes up to you and has built a relationship, asks you for $5, you're probably going to lend it to them. And I think that speaks to the comfortability and the trust between the two people. So a couple of years ago, what I started doing was I started doing chalk talks. And I know a lot of people are doing this. Just so everyone knows, up in New York, we do coach both ways. So it's kind of hard to, it makes coaching a little more difficult on the fly because you're trying to, develop defensive linemen at the same time offensive linemen. But, I do think that in a sense, the offensive line is so much more technical that you do need more time for it. So we do the chalk talks once a week and the group technique lessons once a week. I stole this from education as well. If you have kids in your class who are struggling or you want to kind of fine tune some things, you pull a small group. So for me, I'll pick a night a week and I cycle the kids through 4 or 5 kids at a time. And now I can kind of really slow things down and I can get into with them, getting in a stance and not worrying about going through a drill, building those types of skills the kids need to be successful. So we started doing that. And I noticed, I'll get into grading a little bit, but we noticed our grading system, our team average went up 6% the first year and went up 9% the next. So doing these types of things, I think, as beneficial as they are from a schematic standpoint, a technique standpoint, I think the real big opportunity was getting to know the kids. And you do that by showing up early. So if my meeting starts at 6 o'clock, I'm there at 5:45. And I'm going to, talk with the kids about things non-football related, let them know like, hey, Coach Kluber is going to rip me apart, but I'm going to earn that right because I'm going to build that trust and I'm going to get to know my kids. So showing up early was definitely a huge part of that. And, if you're a coach, I think you should be as visible as possible and, show a genuine interest in your kids and what's going on outside of football. I think they'll really appreciate that. I think it'll go a long way in the summer and in the fall. I always start all these chalk talks with mini lessons. I think these are great opportunities to kind of show the kids and that you care more about than just the game. You want to develop them as a person. And I think that if you're not in this to shape these kids as people, I think you're doing it wrong. So here's where I want to teach my core principles. And if I had to break them down, just some of them, I think integrity is huge. I think we should be teaching kids to do the right thing when no one's looking. I think that I want my kids to move forward in life and be someone who's going to do the right thing regardless of situation. Work ethic, obviously, I think we're all on the same page with that. I want my kids to work hard. I always preach to them, and that's one of the things. We're building that culture. We're building that foundation. We will not be outworked. Someone's going to be more talented than you. Someone's going to be hit the genetic lottery and be bigger than you, but we're not going to get outworked. That's one thing we can control. You always say control your controllables. We can control our work ethic. And we talk about all the time. It's not something you fake. Effort and work ethic is not something that you can kind of portray on the surface. You're either doing it or you're not. Another thing, and I think we all can attest to this, is the humility. I think I want my kids to be humble. We have huge conversations on this to say, if you're into this for, the Instagram and the Snapchats and stuff like that, I said, you're in the wrong place. We're going to do the dirty work here. We're not going to get noticed for it. And I think slamming that home early, it builds a group camaraderie where it's, hey, this is what we're all about. And when people skew from that, I think we kind of knock people back in place. And then resiliency. Like I said, the kids in our district, very resilient. At times, some of them, their home situations will break your heart, but making them, can you miss a block and can you come back the next time and do it right? Can you get chewed apart after a play and go back and make that same play? Or can you, we want them to be able to make mistakes and move forward because that's something that you want them to have working through adversity in life. Like I said, different themes. We're teaching life lessons. I remember a while ago, we've had conversations about drug use. We've had conversations about, there was a video that surfaced on Twitter or TikTok not too long ago of, kids from some of our district and another district. And there was a fight between an older man and younger kids. And we talked about, what would you do in this situation? What would be the right thing to do? And I think that stuff kind of gets lost in coaching. I think we focus on X's and O's a lot, but these types of things I've noticed over the years, when you build that culture, you not only create better kids, but through these things, they also become more attached to you and they're willing to run through a wall for you because they see that you're trying to develop them like that. So incorporating those things. We talk about Twitter all the time. Everyone's got a Twitter account. Everyone's sitting at home making lists now, I see nowadays, and posting all these things. And kids are naive. They'll take things to heart. Everybody is Adam Schefter to them on Twitter. So teaching them to kind of humble themselves and not listen to the outside noise. The internet, we talk about responsibility, things like that. Legacy is one of the biggest things we talk about too. Last year, I spoke to the kids and said, do you want to be cool for a weekend, or do you want to be, remembered forever? So those kids who want to win homecoming and then go to a party afterwards and act like an idiot and, deprioritize football. It's like, well, that weekend's going to be that weekend, but do you want to be cool for that weekend, or do you want to be remembered here forever? Do you want to put a trophy in the trophy case? Talking about what we need to do that and how we need to intrinsically motivate ourselves. Do things not for others. Do things because you want to do it. And I think anyone who's coached on a championship team knows that you get to a point in the season where you don't have to motivate anymore. Kids motivate themselves. And you can tell when you have a special group when, they're holding each other accountable and they're doing the right thing because they want their teammates to succeed. And then Robert Frost, I always talk about take the road less traveled. We talk about this in school all the time. I get it. You're allowed to wear one earbud in. How about you take both of them out? How about you sit in the front of class, take your hat off? Don't be like everybody else. Trailblaze for yourself. So these are all things we're doing in the off season that it seems like small things, but it's really gelling the group together. And it's getting a single message out to the kids and holding them to standards and giving expectations of things that we want to be about. And I think that's huge. The structure and the kind of, you set the bar for what you want. It takes you a long way in the fall. Again, moving forward through different types of culture, scheme, obviously you can't get around it. You need to have it. I want to be physical up front. And in order to be physical up front, we need to know where we're going. Because if we know where we're going, we're playing faster. And the faster we play, the more physical we can be. I know we've all seen it up front. You have kids sometimes they don't know where they're going. They play slower. You could turn a 300-pound kid into a 170-pound kid real fast up front if he doesn't know where he's going. So I'm drilling home where, Coach Elise does a good job of, we don't have that many plays. We just have different formations and ways we'll attack it. But it gives the kids a good opportunity to, in February, get this stuff down. So we're hitting the field. We're worrying about other things. We want to play fast. We want to play physical. And then we can start to even get into things like leverage and reading the defense and understanding what the linebacker's trying to do, rather than teach, hey, here's where you got to step and here's where you got to go. I drill home the physicality from day one. We usually have our first meetings in about February. I always say we're not in the moving business. We're in the putting down business. I always tell the kids, within the confines of the rules and the whistle, you are putting your kid down no matter what. We highlight pancakes. It's something that I think the kids compete with. And we talk about the psychological aspect of the game and how we want to impose our will on other people. And then again, I want to connect with kids and I want to understand their backgrounds, but I also want to hold them accountable. And I think that sometimes people think that, by connecting, there's a certain way to do it. It doesn't necessarily mean you're being soft with the kids. I love my kids to death, all my players, but if they're doing something wrong, they're going to hear it. So I grade every kid after every game. I'll show you guys a picture of that stuff, what we do. It takes a lot of time, but I think the kids appreciate it. It helps them reflect on the game. It also makes it competitive. I think that they all want to have the best grade that week. And it also makes my job easier because if I got to make a switch, say I got two left guards chomping at the bit and one kid gets a 56, I mean, that's quantifiable evidence that I need to make a change. So, and then we talk about, big things, be accountable, core principles. We talk about a light switch. Working hard and doing the right thing is not a light switch. You don't turn it on and turn it off. You either do it all the time, you don't do it at all. So some of these kids, I always say, don't be the light switch guy where you're at football practice and you're hoorah and you're doing everything, but on the weekends, you're acting like a knucklehead. You're not getting to class on time. So absolutely, we want to have that light switch on all the time, and that's something that we preach to them. And then, as we all know, kids are naturally chomping at the bit around February. Coaching for Jeff, one of the things I like is, and I've seen different programs do it different ways. Some programs go all year round. When we end, hopefully around Thanksgiving, Jeff stops and that's it. We don't do anything with the kids. We get them away from the game for a little bit. And I think that this is beneficial because the kids come back in January and February and they're really looking to get into it. They miss it. I think sometimes, like now, especially with the outside training they do and speed training and all this stuff, it burns kids out. And they are kids as much as we want them to kind of be motivated all the time. But I wanted to be a kid for that time period. Then I get them back in February. They're raring to go, which I can imagine any coach now. I don't think we're going to have a lack of motivation this season because, kids are away from everything now. And when we get back and whenever it may be, I think that they're all going to be ready to go. So just going through some of the things about culture, I grade the kids. I think this is a good way that I keep and maintain some of the things that I preach in February. Obviously, we want to pay attention to detail. I've seen this done a million different ways. This is just the way I do it. I'm sure there's better ways to do it, and I'm sure coaches, you probably could share some of the better things that you do. But I take every play, I give them a plus or a minus. If they take the right step, they get a plus. If they don't, they get a minus. If they make their block, they get a plus. If they don't, they get a minus. Now, I like this method because it allows me to not beat a kid up or beat a kid up if I think they need it. A kid's engaged in a block, he takes the right step, and the guy falls off at the last second. I may give him a plus, because maybe he needs a confidence boost. And I say, hey, man, this is great. In my notes section, I can still address what you need to do differently, but I'm not killing you with your grade. On the other hand, if I get some ego and I got kids that are going, talking like they're better than they're playing or not giving the effort, it's a good opportunity for me to give that minus and say, hey, man, look, you just graded out at a 70, but you're walking around like you're a Division I prospect. So these are things that I do, but I think it's good because it can help you drill home and hold the kids accountable. Hey, we didn't play good. And I grade the kids after every game. If we lost by 1 point or if we won by 50, they're still getting graded. And you'll see sometimes, I think, younger kids coming up have a hard time dealing with that criticism. They're like, Coach, we just won 60-14. It's like, yeah, but you know what? Eventually we're going to play a better player, and I need you to make that block. And I understand that we won by 40, 50 points, but I want to play in November. I want to play on Thanksgiving. I want to play for a championship, and I need you to make that block. So just a way to keep the kids motivated and keep them not skewing from that path. This is our pancake stick. I started this last year, and I saw the kids really jump into this. I know kids are very motivated by tangible things, and Miami has a turnover chain. So I was thinking of doing something, but I wanted to have substance. So we're drilling home the physical aspect of the game. So what I did was, obviously being at Longwood, we always have a term, bring the wood, which means be physical. So I took a 2x4, had a flag made up. I had it put on the flag. And what we do is all of those marks are every pancake block from the season. So after every game, what we do is almost ritually on Mondays, we'd meet at my truck. Every kid who did it got to etch their own markings into the 2x4. And you could just see, like, there are times where I would forget about it, and the kids are reminding me, hey, Coach, are we etching today? Hey, are we going to do the stick today? And it's a great opportunity I gave this to one of my football players who was not named a captain, but was an excellent leader. And I was like, you know what, you're going to be the flag bearer. And I think it motivated him, like, hey, people look at me in this aspect. I'm a leader, even though I'm not a captain. But just something cool for the kids to do. And I think they really enjoyed it. And again, it meant something because it was tied to the culture that I'm preaching all February and March and April. And it's even something you can look back at, and it's like it signifies reminding the kids, like, hey, remember what we talked about, what we're about. So just something I started last year, I think the kids really bought into. Kind of motivating the kids. This is what we do before every single game. This is before the Suffolk County Championship. Now that we have the stick, we used to do it just in a group. I meet with my 5 linemen before the game. We don't really talk about anything X's and O's wise. We don't talk about what I'm expected of you. It's just a good opportunity to tell the kids, like, hey, man, I love you. You guys are working hard. Stay safe today and play together. And I think that's another good opportunity because we get so caught up in the game that we forget that they are kids. And, it's not easy to be a football player. You get one payday a week and you're doing the same things from July and August all the way through, hopefully, Thanksgiving. So just letting them know I appreciate them and that they're doing a fantastic job. But again, still tying that into the whole culture of what we're about and what we want to do up front. So now here's the thing. How do I take that? How do I take that culture stuff and how do I put that? We obviously have to play football. We have to have schemes. We have to be able to put that into the X's and O's of the game. So I'm going to bore you guys with our rules because sometimes, like I said, this is such a jargon sport. I found sometimes beneficial when I hear someone call something different. And I go, oh, I don't really say it like that. I say it a different way. So our power rules, probably very similar to a lot of people. It's a checklist. It's gap over backer or gap over down. Very similar to what Coach Alisi had talked about if any of you had sat on his presentation a couple weeks ago. In the backside family, if you're on the backside of the play, you're either pulling or you're cutting off or gap hinging. And if the tackle pulls, you're going to assume the rules of the front side. So the guard would block front side rules, gap over backer. This is the first play I teach when we do chalk talks because I think that if you want to build a physical culture, you start with your most physical play. You get the kids excited about it, and I think it's easier to dial it back than it is to dial it up. For example, if I was to start with pass pro, I don't think I would be preaching. I think I would have a harder time getting the kids to be more physical doing things like that than dialing back and taking aspects of power and how we want to flip our hips and be physical and moving that into a pass pro. It's an attitude play. I tell the kids all the time, it's just as much psychological as physical. You know, we talk about you're blowing a guy off the line of scrimmage, breaking his will. You're talking about if you're blowing someone off the ball and you put him in the ground, he's thinking about that the next play. So talking about these things early on. A huge thing is we want to get displacement, whether it's horizontal, vertical. I need displacement on this play. How do you get displacement? You have attitude, you be physical. And then we always say this play is like we're kicking in the door with the front side of the line and we're crashing the party with the puller. One thing I will do when I do power and I do a lot of these plays, I like to dumb it down. And Coach DeWall did this for us when we were in college at Hobart. He would show us the basic play, you know, because we talk about all these concepts. I think we forget sometimes to tell the kids why we're doing it. So I like to draw the play like this for the kids. And we talk about how we're kicking the door down and we're crashing the party. We got a fullback coming in here. But I think it shows them what we're kind of looking for and where we're moving towards. So obviously from there, we can work our way into the actual drop of the play. I drew a 4-2 shell. I always joke with Coach Alisi, if we ever get in this and he calls anything besides a run play, I'm going to throw my headset at him. But, you know, I think this is just cleaner to look at. And obviously you go through the rules. We're going to kick the last man on the line of scrimmage. We're gap over backer or gap over down here because we're pulling. So I have my tackle is going to come down into this D tackle here. And, you know, we teach that guy has to move. So when you're getting into him, he's aiming for that play side shoulder. He wants to blow that shoulder open. Obviously being physical at the first level and mentally at the second. We're going to be working. Now we have no one in our gap. We have someone over us. We call these co-op blocks. Why? Because we have the same person in the rule. So we're going to work cooperatively to the backside backer. And, you know, keeping it simple, just play a two-man game here. Us two for those two, we want to push this man vertical or we want to try and blow open that shoulder, but push him vertical and force this man to go underneath. All right. So still being physical, we could be in, you know, quad set.
Hold on one
The,
second. Oh, there you go. Hold on.
You got a question, Justin?
No, you froze up for a second.
We good?
Yeah, you're good now. Yeah.
Sorry, guys. So the guards be pulling up for the front side backer, and we're going to obviously gap hinge this with the backside tackle. So taking those culture things and moving them into a physical play. So now we talked about, we did all those things in the off season, and now we want to move on and we want to get into how are we going to do this in the fall. So this is the first year that we were kind of implementing some of the spread concepts. We got a power to the right here. All right, we're going to bring the fullback across. I mean, we got people, we're still getting off the ball. We're still moving. Shout out to my center for the one-handed pancake here. But we're still getting off the ball. We're doing those things where we're opening the box up a little bit, but we're still able to convey the physical nature and things that we didn't even do during the season. A couple more clips. Power to the right again, pulling the tackle here. Gap controlled. I mean, great job by the right tackle. Getting off the ball, obviously in a three-point stance now, getting that play side shoulder, being physical in the process, getting a double team at the point of attack, turning that shoulder, all right, and getting out the gate. Good path here by the tackle. He's coming through, following that co-op. I'd like to see him break down a little more, but just get a piece and we're off to the races. But again, a lot of these things that we're talking about early on, not even during the season. We go here, kind of a little muddled look here. But I got people, I got bodies flying around, people brawling. We're getting into people and hitting it downhill. Get a penalty on the play. Here's a good look. You know, my pulling tackle here coming through. And again, we're in the pistol here. We're in gun. We're a traditionally under center team. How are we going to maintain that type of physicality? Fullback could have done a better job here, But staying on the path for my right tackle, finishing the block, putting the man down. Look, I got my backside guard here, finishing his block, driving his feet, playing till the whistle, doing those things. We're not going to be a light switch. We're going to be going full go all the time. Switch over to this year. Like to see a better path by my backside guard. But here you go. You got people caving down. All right, my right guard. Like to see a little more leverage there, hand placement. Right tackle, same one from the year before, as a senior now, coming down, caving this. Great block until the whistle. Again, the things from the offseason translating into now. Being physical here. Everyone caving down, crashing the party. Good bounce here. But take a look, my left tackle is fortunate enough to have this guy. He Stony Brook commit, won the top lineman award this year. Very physical. Able to turn the switch, though. Able to pass protect, but if I need him to cave down, he's caving down. Again, a little more power. This is obviously a little bit of a tweak here. We got a little pitch motion. We knew we could log the end here. So trying to get him outside into space, but still. We're drive blocking. We're getting into people. I mean, look at my right tackles downfield. This is stuff we're preaching. And if you're talking about it, the kids are going to want to do it. Putting his man down at the very end. I mean, if this is the third quarter, that guy's still going to play a quarter and a half. We ended up running for 700 yards this game. Our quarterback was hurt, so we did a lot of running the ball. But, building these types of expectations early on. One more clip here. Coming to the right. This is the one from earlier too. My right guard, I said, was a guy who, we never even thought would be in the starting lineup. Ended up becoming an all-division player for us. We were able to get out of him the most. And I think that we built that type of mindset for him outside of the actual football season. All right, now moving from there, obviously, as an O-line guy, I have no problem being physical and teaching power. But now what do? We got to teach pass pro. We have to do all these different protections because we have to alleviate the pressure from that box. We can't be having 9-man boxes. So, this is something where Coach Alisi came in and implemented these things. You kind of have to change your paradigm, but still take what you're used to and the physicality and incorporate it into it. So we do half slide, full slide, man protections, all the above, depending on the week, depending on the front. And this is where I think you struggle with the kids a little bit because we're very run heavy and we're very physically oriented that we tell the kids to go after someone. And now we're switching to, we want time and space to be our friend. You don't need to go get that guy in pass pro. He comes to you, you can be physical with him, but we don't want to go out and get him unless we're obviously jumping somebody who we don't want to. We say we got a bigger D tackle. I don't want him gaining some speed on me. But for the most part, I want to maintain my relationship, and I want to get that quarterback to deliver the football. So I tell the kids all the time, this is all feet. So just some technique stuff that we talk about. We want to maintain crotch to near hip relationship. I want my hip pocket as my aiming point. If that man starts to threaten that hip pocket, I'm going to flip my hips. I'm going to punch and escort. Taking some of the things from OLP, I know a lot of people, he's done a great job with bringing science behind a lot of things. The kickstand, I think, was huge to me to kind of explain to the kids how we want to have that kickstand so you can push off the midfoot. You can anchor in when you get bold. I think incorporating that stuff into it. We talk about pass pro posture. I took this from Coach DeWall at Hobart. We talk about a carousel. We want that pipe to go through your head, through your back, and out your ass, and kind of you want to be stuck in that posture, pinching the shoulder blades and being balanced. We talk about having a post foot, which is your inside foot. If your post foot gets threatened, it immediately turns into a run block. So I think that's where it's nice, where the kids understand, like, the pocket. If he threatens that foot, I could be as physical as I want. I'm removing that man. And in reality, in high school football, if a quarterback's holding the ball more than 5 seconds, we're done anyway. So for him to dry block for a couple more seconds to get him to release the ball rather than collapse the pocket is something I'm willing to live with. And then again, a lot of the famous saying with O-line coaches, pass pro isn't passive. I want my kids to be physical. It's not a play off. It is a time where if someone if you're able to get into somebody, you still want to be physical. We still invite pancakes onto the pass pro. Here, just drawing up quick, half slide protection. This is obviously, we designate the right as the play side. We're going to man on the front side. We're going to slide on the back side. I tell my kids all the time to do your kind of, put yourself in autopilot. When you get up to the line of scrimmage, kind of scan, and you should understand, hey, where's my threat? Who could be coming to me? And we want to get a little depth so it could sort out. But here, obviously, it's your basic half slide protection. And then going into a couple clips of it. It's something we struggled with a little early on, and I think this past year we've gotten a lot better with. And you'll see at times we can be fairly physical while doing this. So pass play here. You'll see a lot of this is half slide. I mean, this is the same game I showed you guys before where my right tackle's caving somebody down, and now I'm telling him he's kind of got to, obviously his post foot gets threatened here, so he's driving. For my left tackle, he's kind of being patient. We're stepping back. We're setting. We're letting the quarterback deliver the football. Moving through here. It's our homecoming game. Again, we ran the ball. I think the first series, we pounded the ball way down the field, and we ran the ball nonstop. Here we are now on a 4th and 10. We're trying to spread the ball out a little more. So you have to be able to change that mindset and kind of shift that paradigm. Like, we can still do the same things, but we got to pass protect too. So 3-point stance. Look at my tackle. My tackle's not going to get anybody. He's being patient. I'd like to see him slam down a little bit here and not go underneath my guard. But my guard flips his hips a little quick, which is all right, though, because he just rides that man upfield. Anchoring him with my center. We're still getting a double from my right guard and right tackle. Plenty of time. Delivers the football in the window. Same game, going the other way now in the second quarter. Again, spread formation. Right tackle, a very physical kid, doing a great job right now of maintaining his relationship. He's over kicking a little bit, but we're still being able to change that pace and throw the football. Obviously get sacked here, but running back doesn't block. Now, this is a football game. This is the Suffolk County semifinals we're playing in. Very good front we played against this week. We scored an 80-yard touchdown the first play from scrimmage. We ran a dart play right up the middle for an 80-yard touchdown. So here we are. We got to change up a little bit. We have to be able to throw the football because now you got to pack the box. So I have to tell those same kids who are being ultra physical to now back up a little bit here, be able to pass pro, but still be physical at the same time. You can see the left tackle here. Good job with his hands. Gets his man off balance and puts him down. Look at center and right guard getting into the guy here. Being physical. It's not a playoff. Incomplete. Coming back to it on the next play. Again, in spread. Got a couple guys free, but we're hand fighting up here on the right side. Double on the left. And we're able to do certain things like this now because we have shifted our paradigm. We're still physical, but we're able to do some of the spread concepts. Like I said, sometimes I tell people all the time, I'm not an expert. I don't have expertise. I have experience. I'm a Longwood guy. I've been here forever. This is the stuff I was taught. I stole from as many people as I could. I just wanted to get on and share with you guys today some of the things that we do culturally and some of the things to try to be physical, because very few teams do get off the ball like we do. And I think a lot of it is attributed to the things we do in the off season. That's it from my end, Coach. If anybody has any questions, feel free. Pick my brain.
Hey, I got a question here for you.
Shoot.
So Coach Alisi wants to know if you would be willing to share the lineman's prayer.
Oh, the lineman's prayer. I don't know how I forgot about that. So before every game, when we break down the offensive lineman, what we do is we say the lineman's prayer 3 times, and I'll say it and the kids will repeat it. And every time we get louder and louder to the point where we're screaming the last time we say it. And I think it's something that embodies. I took it from Coach Pete. I'm sure Coach Peterson took it from somebody else. It's we work the hardest, we're known the least, but who cares? For we are the reason. And then we break it down on O-line pride on 3. And I think it's something gets the kids real jacked up before the games and reminds them what we're about and the humility. And we don't care who's going to get the spotlight. We're going to be physical and we're going to get after people.
It's awesome. So then that's something you do before every game.
Before every game, we do it because we usually do offense last. So it's usually the last thing before we go into a team. And it gets everybody riled up. It's, chance to do a little hoorah speech and, talk about how I want to get everybody in a game, which I do. And, we talk about, I want, we get the 5 starters out. I want the next 5 to come in and do nothing different. I want to skip a beat. So it's a good opportunity to fire them up and still, reference some of the things that, we expect from them.
No, it's awesome. Will you guys do that before scrimmages too?
We try to save it for games. Our game scrimmage, I think we do it to kind of give the kids, especially the JV kids who are coming up, a little bit of like a taste of it. But we won't do it for like our multi scrimmages and stuff like that. It's kind of saved for payday.
That's awesome. Question just came in. How many run schemes will you guys have in for a season?
So we have Coach Alisi has it broken into 4 families. We have gap, man, trap, which is essentially the man concept, and zone. So we'll have those 4. We obviously have a pin and pull in. But we have different rules for all 4 of those. But I think Coach Alisi does a good job of where he leaves us alone. What I mean by that is our rules don't really change for his formations. Very rarely he'll tag a couple things on where maybe my front side guys want to do something. But I think that's huge because then it eliminates from the offensive lineman how much I have to know. And like I said, the quicker you can know things and the simpler you make it, the more physical you could be.
Sure. There's a question, another question here. This is a good one. Coach said he knows the 2015 O-line brought home that Long Island championship, but the 2019 O-line graded out higher. So which one was better?
I would like to believe over the years that I've developed better as a coach, more technically through doing clinics and things of that sort. I think that I was very good at motivating that 2015 team. I think that I will never see an offensive line like it, although the 2019 did rival it. I think that they were more technically sound, which made them grade out better. I think, we were more brawlers in 2015 where, Matt Weiss is the only 2-time winner of the Zellner Award, which is the pinnacle of offensive line play, the best lineman in the county. He's the only 2-time winner, but there were plays where, he's not blocking the right guy, but he's destroying 3 people in his path. So I think that they were absolutely more physical. I know that all county picks up here work by they work by your roster where you finish in the season. You get X amount of picks like allotted already. But I think that I had 5 all county kids across the board there, and not taking anything away from 2019. That was a special group too. Very physical, very good. But that 2015 group was very special.
Are you teaching both half and full slide protections?
Yes. So it depends on, we'll have some people who want to try to knife in. They'll run fronts where they'll kind of under it and they want to maybe give us a head up technique on that tackle and shoot inside and try and outnumber us. So we'll want to go with a full slide protection, but our base protection, we start out with the half slide.
Cool deal, Coach. And I'll see if anybody else has any questions, any last minute questions for Coach. Please feel free to drop it in the chat. Do you want to just share your contact information again?
Absolutely.
In case anybody have any questions in regards to this stuff. Like I was telling you before, man, I think it's awesome, the culture talks and seeing how guys are implementing it within their position groups. We always talk about the culture as a whole, but then, it's just as important, right? The subculture within the culture. And, that's as us as position coaches, right? We're basically, we're head coaches of our position. So what are you establishing to get your guys right and to get your guys on the same page as everybody else and working, twice as hard and being competitive, being the hardest working group, being the most physical group, all that stuff. When you break it down and see what guys are doing, and some of that stuff, man, was really good, really awesome stuff. And I completely agree. I think it's important to express to your guys that it's not just about them in shoulder pads and a helmet, you know what I mean? Really getting to know them. So certain things like I like what you're doing, where you're teaching them, kind of like a life lesson before these film sessions. think that's powerful stuff, man. And you know, I could see a lot of coaches starting to do that or starting to implement it if they don't already do that. You know, so that's awesome. Props to you.
Thanks, Justin.
Did you have you had the slide with your contact information, right? It's not up right now.
Can you guys still see my screen? I'll type it right on here because I'm like technology illiterate and I couldn't write it in the chat. I think I sent it to just.
Yeah, you could write it in the. You could write it in the. Hold on a sec. Hold on one second. Just make sure you write to everyone. I think that's it.
Yeah, I kept clicking and it wouldn't go through to it. So.
Oh, you're good.
I'll type it in here. If anybody would like the slide, I have no problem sharing the slide with anybody. So obviously I'm an open book, contact me. I'm going to put my email up. I don't know if my screen's still shared.
Yeah, you're good, Coach.
There's my email. Obviously, got onto it through Twitter. You have my Twitter handle. Feel free to message me anything. I'm an open book. I'm more than willing to share with people. And I'm sure that, obviously this is an ongoing process and everyone's always learning. I mean, I've been coaching for 10 years now, but I find that I'm learning something new every year. So especially as O-line guys, like I talked about the jargon, we might pick something up from each other just from conversation, it might go a long way.
No doubt. No, I think that's absolutely. And, we've been saying it, man, if you pick up one thing from a session, it makes it all worth it. So
absolutely.
It was great. And like I said, I'm sure guys will reach out to you for sure. Just in regards to some of the stuff you do. But that was great. Coach, I appreciate you tuning in, man, and giving us some of your time this afternoon, man. It was awesome.
No problem. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely.